Okay. And so other key aspect is released when no longer needed. So if I had to go back to my sheet, no, it's here on. If the BA's work is over in week 4, if he continues in week 5 without a work, so there's a tendency to overuse or over allocate a resource because resources are internal. And when the resources are internal, they continue to get their salaries in time. The project manager is not releasing the funds from his pocket or his budget at that point in time. His budget will be impacted much, much later when the project is about to close, and then he'll find that a lot of his hours have been used up. So there are some companies where they have appropriate systems where they track the hours allocated to a project, uh, but many companies do not have that. So uh, there also needs to be a system in place which ensures that a person does not overstay into a project. And why there might be a reason for the overstay. Can you try and guess? See, there is a might be a tendency for the project manager to keep a resource longer than necessary because the customer might schedule a meeting even though the work is over for that particular resource. So if there's a meeting scheduled for requirements for any reason, even if the requirements collection is over in week 4, now what does the project manager do? How, because he would need to get the BA into the meeting. Okay, so project manager, the customers, they can call for meetings at any point of time. So this is a very hypothetical example I've given. So many a times when there are projects, the projects are not standalone. Projects are always uh, belonging to a family of projects for a given customer. So, for example, Vodafone, when they engage a vendor like IBM, TCS, or Tech Mahindra, they will not be giving them just one application or one requirement to develop. They'll be giving them several requirements. So now CRM project and the accounting project, they might belong to the same client, such as Vodafone Idea. And when that happens, it would be the same BA would be serving out here. So if this guy has started work here on the accounting project, what will happen is if some time needs to be borrowed for the CRM project, the client will approve because it is client knows that it is his project only. So he will let go the BA for a couple of hours from the accounting project so that he can attend the meeting in the CRM project. So this is how you ensure that the resources continue to be utilized and they do not overstay, leading to a situation of low utilization. But if it happens to be a skill which is uh, probably you know required by with only one person across the entire account, like Vodafone or Idea or Bharti or Tata, then if that person is released from the account, it becomes a problem to get him back because then he would be working on some other account. So to correct that kind of a situation, then the expectations of the customer have to be set that once this person is released, we will not get him back. So whatever work you need from this guy, you better get it done now. And if you need him later, he would be available only on phone or remotely. We cannot get him to a meeting, no, face to face mode, because then that person may not be in Pune. He or she might be in Delhi or Mumbai or wherever. Okay, so with this, we complete this topic of resource management. There were one or two. We had not done this discussion. Team distractions. No, we did not do this. I do remember a discussion on this, but I'm not sure whether I did with your class or whether I did it with the MBA. So, can you confirm whether this discussion was there?
Yes, sir. Just a minute. Uh, no, sir. Not this one.
Okay, so let's do this because this is part of resource management. So this is the. I will give you a background so to get your jump start. This is a very a common issue, which is wastage of the time. I mean, quote unquote wastage. Uh, so, project managers finding that his developers spend a lot of time in um site tracking, into personal discussions, or into discussing non-work related matters, and they may, you know, get out from their desk, go out for a cigarette break or a tea break, and then continue to have a discussion for half an hour. So, what should be done? So, just take a look at that, and then we will. How many answers are there? Actually, there is one long answer. The first answer is pretty long, so you can, I think, just try to grasp one or two points, and then everyone can build upon that. So everyone can
Sir,
just.
can you share the link?
Okay, it was there in the Telegram. I'll put it here as well. Yes, here it is. Everyone, just ping me on the chat because this works as a backup for the attendance. Just put two letters GA. It's a long answer, so just pick up any point from this answer and everyone can highlight that point. So I hope you'll be able to open that link from your mobile. So every organization will have somebody who thinks like this project manager, and there will be organization, there will be people who don't think like this guy.
So you're asking about the second point, that a long thing that has like 5 6 points. You're asking us to read that, right?
Uh, see, this is the question: how can I manage team distractions like chit chat?
Yeah.
And answer starts with this point: conversation is not inherently disruptive,
All
but
right.
this is a very long answer.
Okay.
So
I'm reading.
from this answer, you can pick up any point. But then, if you try to read only from the screen, then you will not see what is at the
Yes, sir.
bottom of the answer. So
I'm.
you can open locally.
Yes.
It's 1429. So 1432 will start, or 1433. So none of you will present the entire answer, but because it's a long answer, but everyone will just mention one point. Yeah. So shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You want to go? Yeah. Go ahead.
So here he is saying that the person who is giving answer is saying that uh, you only said that they are talented but distracted, but sometimes for developers to work their best they need some time off work. I mean, they need some time to think more.
Okay. So that's a yeah, one of the valid
Yeah,
point.
so developers need thinking time to be more productive.
Yeah. So a
So
break is
yeah,
required in order to
yeah,
maintain the
it is
productivity.
required. Yeah.
Yeah. So nobody can work non-stop end to end
Mm-hmm.
like a machine. So there's a difference between human beings and machine. Breaks are required.
And sometimes if they take break, they become more productive
Yeah.
because
Okay.
they get some thinking time.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, and human brain is like this, that even when somebody takes a break and is talking about something else, maybe talking about a movie or a cricket game or some other sports or some other public interest issue or some social issue, in the back end, the mind is always doing some processing, and that
Mm.
processing might help to resolve the issue.
Yes, sir, exactly.
Okay, next point. Who wants to? come out with other points.
Okay, I'll try one point. They said that okay, later in this article that saying about accountability. I mean, like who's accountable for the team's decisions when a team of developers, let's say, is actually says a developer says that he's going to finish a project in 5 days. Okay, but he takes 7. So you then in those cases then you will be like, then why were you speaking to the your other colleagues? Why weren't you just working more? But working more does not ensure quality work, according to me. Working uh, is not only productivity, as in I mean, like more number of key taps does not mean that you're doing more work. That might only make you look busy.
Yeah, okay. So accountability sometimes gets misused in the sense that it becomes, uh, you know, somebody gets crucified in that process. You know,
Yeah,
something when something goes wrong, then there is a you have somebody to fire. You know,
exactly. So it won't be his. I mean, like it wouldn't be his fault even, or maybe there's just like a general. I mean, like so scapegoat. Let's call them scapegoats. I mean, like management will only look for a scapegoat if something goes wrong.
yeah. So the real issues uh, may get sidelined. There may not be any root cause analysis done, and somebody randomly may get fired.
Yeah, and the worst part is that that thing will happen again because nobody has addressed the problem itself. They've just made a visible change. Nobody's addressed the problem.
Yeah, and this is what happens in sometimes in real life. So rather than discussing the economy, people are discussing Kangana. So
Sorry.
yeah, so the root cause gets hidden because people don't want to discuss the root cause. Uh, it requires too much of expertise, and then uh, the people who actually goofed up, they might get caught. So they are also interested in finding wrong uh, attentions and wrong scapegoats. Okay, so then there are other points that okay, we'll go to the next point. Who wants to go? We have Monica.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So you want to discuss some point from here?
Yes, a self-management team, sir.
Yeah.
Uh, Suppose while we are doing project, we have to manage only one part.
Mm.
Uh, that thing we have to do. Suppose we have to manage one, not only that one part. We have to manage all. We have to think ourselves, and we have to manage all things. Not only management team. Entire organization we have to manage.
Okay. So this is a little complex thing where this guy says whether the team can be self-managing, and the self there's a he has also linked it to another discussion topic out here, self-managed teams, and I had shared the link for that.
Yeah, sir. If I can, I think this is like if you're hiring people who are like who can self-manage, then they know like they have some work to do, and they'll do it at their own pace. Although they'll maybe even like goof around like with their other colleagues, but then at least they know that they have to do that much work in this time. So they're like responsible and they're managing themselves. So that is like like if you're hiring those kind of people, then you wouldn't face these kind of problems.
Yeah. So one point that he's saying is that if it is a self-managed team, and if they are focused on the work, it doesn't mean they have to look busy. So there's a difference between staying focused and looking busy. So we can have a team which is cognizant of their targets and their deliverables, and they are accountable, but that does not mean that they have to appear busy. So there's a difference between appearing busy and being self-managed. Okay, so I think this was a good. Some of these points, they are very, very realistic. I also recently came across this, or recently started paying attention to this particular forum. Stack Exchange has got a forum for everything. Stack Exchange and Stack Overflow. Uh, so, management topics as well as technical topics. I mean, they are more famous for technical topics, as Java or Ruby or Oracle or whatever. But for a management perspective, also it looks like it is a very useful threads. Okay, so I have to start another topic now. Resource management we have done. We worked. We have done the introduction part earlier. We did the stakeholder also, right? Um, uh, Let me just open the. I'm just going through my resource. No, scope management we have done. So we can start with the stakeholder management, but before that, let me let me confirm if I've added to the. Okay, I have to validate this from the syllabus. Just a second. I'm connecting my hard drive here because I haven't kept all of. Oh, okay, I can refer my. This transfer and scope fitted. Yeah, stakeholder is there. Yes. So this presentation I've taken from a very, uh, you know, uh, project manager of some international level. This, you may not be able to read it, but his name is Agus. He's from Indonesia. It's very good presentations. So I'm again going to repeat because every time somebody new might be there. So this presentation follows the PIMBOK, and the structure of the PIMBOK. What it does is it takes a knowledge area. So now we are taking the knowledge area of stakeholder management. Within each knowledge area, there are processes, and for each process, there is a definition of the process, and then there are additional attributes, and those additional attributes are ITTO: input, tools, techniques, output, and there can also be few more attributes like trends and best practices. So ITTO we normally don't consider, but though there has been an exception. For acquire team, we did take a look at the tools and techniques, though we did not uh, use the PIMBOX content for that. We had our own content, and for which I have created a spreadsheet and shared. Once in a while, we'll take a look at ITTO, but not otherwise. And the reason why we are not taking a look at it is because it is too generic. Everywhere it will say expert judgment, meetings, uh, you know, you know, environment, some project assets or some organizational assets, which most of the things they're generic motherhood. So I it does not add too much of a learning value. Okay, so yeah, somebody can read this for the class.
Yes, sir. Okay, so project stakeholder management is the process required to identify the people, groups, or organizations that could impact or be impacted by the project, to analyze stakeholders, exceptions in project decision and execution.
Okay,
Expectation, sorry.
yeah. So a stakeholder is anyone who can influence the project or be influenced by the project or both. And therefore, and this is one mistake which I found what the MBA class did, some of them, when I gave them an assignment, they identified only the project team as the stakeholder, which is not correct. So a stakeholder need not be just the project team. It need not be just your client or user. It could be anyone who could be influenced by the outcome of the project. For example, if I'm doing a renovation in my house, and which I've seen it in real life as well, when construction goes in a house, or some structure is being created, it does have an influence on the immediate neighbors. So those are your immediate neighbors are also stakeholders, and it is very important to be able to identify stakeholders. That is the most important part of this particular knowledge area. Uh,
Sir, would you say your competitors are a stakeholder?
in some cases, not in every case, it will vary from case to case. Uh, they are in a way, uh, but we are talking about projects.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
we are not talking about companies. So competitors are part of your ecosystem. So obviously, whatever you do and whatever they do, there's a mutual impact. But we are now talking in the context of not entities but projects. So let us say Tata Motors has got a does a project whereby they're improving the paint of the car. So obviously, if it is successful, then ultimately the competition will be impacted, because then they also have to improve themselves. But that is not the competition is not the the actual context out here. Though from the definition, yeah, it does impact, but that was not the actual intent behind this knowledge area.
Yes, sir, I understand.
So I'll give you one. This example I've seen in my real life. When my sister's neighbor, they were adding additional floors to their house, and because of the constant pressure on the walls of her house also got impacted, because uh, it was joint. The wall was common, and the roof developed leaks. And I've seen this in USA. It's a very funny example. So there was one Indian who had settled there, got his green card and citizenship, and then he started his company and became little well-to-do. And so what he did was he imported a marble statue. You can't call it a statue. I mean, so the technical term is different. And he got it installed in front of his somewhere in his garden. So that is a typical house structure. There's a house, and between the house and the road, there's a small patch of garden. So the gardens there, they are not used like India. I mean, in India, if somebody has got a garden, it is meant to be occupied in the evening, or taking a walk or something. So those gardens mainly are landscaping structures, not to be used with a heavy occupancy or utilization. Uh, uh, So they are the objective is landscaping. If you refer to movies and pictures of U.S. houses, uh, you will start realizing this uh, feature. And because he was well to do, he could afford to import that marble structure. But what happened was, one of his neighbors complained, and the municipal corporation came and they took away that marble structure. And what was the complaint? That this marble structure is spoiling the harmony and the consistency of the landscaping that is there on this street, because nobody else has this marble structure. So, and I think they put a little fine also on him. So even though that place belonged to him, he owns that house, but he was not allowed to do that. So this is a very funny example. So
Those people actually have these committees, that decide that even fences can be only this much high. They can't be higher or lower than a certain point. Then some colors are approved for houses from the outside, and some are not approved. Like they have these committees that actually neighborhood committees that decide all this for them.
yeah,
See, fences and all we can understand, right?
yeah,
There's a reason for like fence height, but this marble structure, I mean,
yeah. Because see, it is it is landscaping. So the
mm,
entire street has to have some consistency in the landscaping.
okay,
Otherwise, it doesn't look good.
okay,
So, like for example, if you're getting a room painted, and one wall you put it into a different color, it may not look very consistent. So there are people who have different colors for different walls, but rarely does it look nice.
okay,
So, for example, if I am staying in a society, but and this is what I have problem I'm facing, then one end of the road is a garbage dumping place, and whosoever enters that street doesn't get a good feeling, and then ultimately, the I would say the society,
Aesthetic, right?
yeah, the society is impacted because uh, that piece of a road gets associated with the society. Yeah, aesthetics is the right word. You're right, absolutely right, bang on. So though it is not inside the society, but then it's India, we can't do anything. So, and therefore you will find that sometimes if there is a slum area near a property, the value of the property goes down. So this is another example. So we will should be able to identify. So, so one good example of, I would say, let us say, it's we are calling MBA program as a project, GMT or PGDM. Let's visualize this as a project. Who are the stakeholders? Nobody calls it a project, but we can visualize it as
mm-hmm.
a project.
So students,
Yes.
faculties,
Okay.
um, so admin staff.
Okay. Non-teaching staff. That is the terminology.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot parents.
Yeah, I was just going
Uh,
to say that.
recruiters. Like recruiters.
Okay. Campus.
Yes.
What else? and I can probably call it, slash industry, because ultimately it's the industry that is going to use. So we identified the important stakeholders out here, and we can have the neighborhood, ecosystem, which is could be consisting of you know stationery shops or a food,
Canteen cafes,
yeah, cafe.
hostels,
Yeah, real estate, the
PG. Hmm.
people who are around there.
Okay, we'll take another project. Okay, so this is elections, and let's call it Lok Sabha elections. We can again visualize this as a project.
Candidates,
Okay, so it is candidates. So by that we can include the parties as
uh-huh.
well.
Voters, uh,
Arguably the entire country.
Yes, but within the country, if you were to divide the country into groups, how would you
Okay.
divide that?
If you're writing voters and non-voters as well, even though they're not voting.
Okay, yes, non-voters. I mean, or people who are not eligible, because
Yeah.
I would say,
You mean children and whatnot? Yeah.
yeah, non-eligible citizens because of age, and and maybe 100 years back, for example, U.S. didn't give the universal, what is that French? Some word is there for the voting rights. Uh,
Okay.
uh, to women and black people. So they got voting rights very recently. This is been, this is not that US got independence 250 years back or 300 years back. So from day one, so the blacks did not have voting rights even after they were freed from slavery by Abraham Lincoln. Uh, they got the voting rights much later, and even the women also got voting rights much later. Okay, so non-eligible citizens. So I forget that term. So, but here we are referring to kids, and the impact will also be there on the expatriates. So the UK has realized this fact, and the UK allows some kind of a voting by the expatriates because it knows, it has accepted the fact that the expatriates are impacted. So I don't know under what conditions. So it may,
Sir, were you thinking about emancipation?
no, that is not the technical term.
Oh,
I'll
okay, yes, yes.
I have
Ex-
to Google it. I'll get it.
yeah. Expatriates.
Yeah. What else? So now the one major impact is on industry. I mean, and there can be different aspects. And this is a very major problem in India as well as USA, both the largest democracies, which is the industry. So even though Mukesh Ambani has got only a single vote, but he controls who is going to be in the power. So the influence of the industry is huge because they are impacted by the government policy. So if BJP was not in power, I have doubt if Geo would have got the permission to launch in the way it did by offering free data for more than a year. and this has been a problem, even a widespread problem in USA. So in India, it is only Ambani and Adani, but in USA, it is many.
Lobbying. They lobby, right? I mean, like they have these people who go to, yeah,
Yeah, in fact, US has gone one step ahead, and lobbying is a legal business out there.
yeah. Yeah.
So there are companies whose business is to lobby, and plus, if the senators do not agree with the decision, if a particular senator has been promoting bills that go against the industry, he can risk he's risking his life as well. So for a long time, for several decades, US was trying to come out with legislation against tobacco. There is a movie on that. I'm not very good in remembering names nowadays, but
Thank you for smoking.
no, 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 not that. Yeah, that may be one of the movies, though, but the movie where it actually they passed the legislation and uh, um, the person who actually came out with the uh, medical reports, and the facts and figures of the damage done by the tobacco. This guy was hounded, and his family was so troubled that the wife decided to divorce him, and this guy was almost declared a crazy man. And after a long, long struggle, they managed to pass a bill against and just to put a warning that tobacco is injurious to health. So that is how this works. So if the lobbying doesn't work, they will uh, go to the next step. Okay, so we'll take. I think we are done with that time, 15:02. So we'll close here, and we might take just one more example, a little complex example. These are a little straightforward, uh, and then we'll continue. Sure, take it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.